Hey, you're listening to the Road to a Billion podcast. I'm your host, Stefan Georgi, and I'm glad to have you with me here today. The Road to a Billion is a call-in radio show style podcast where you can ask me questions about freelancing, copywriting, entrepreneurship, mindset, scaling, relationships, money, and more. You can also ask my guests those questions, including my guest today, who I'll introduce in a moment. The reason for the name The Road to a Billion is twofold. One is sold around $1 billion worth of products and services, both my own and for clients, and because I want to make an impact in the lives of 1 billion people over the next 10 years. So a bit later on in the show, we'll take your calls. The way that works is if you're on Zoom, you just pop questions into the Q&A section and we'll go through and we'll answer some of those. But before we get to that, I want to introduce and then chat with my guest today, who is Troy Ericson. If you don't know Troy, I first met him back in 2019. He attended a small workshop that Ian Stanley and I did in Las Vegas around freelancing. It ended up becoming part of the freelancer freedom course that Ian and I have. At that point, Troy was 23. He was making $4,000 to $6,000 per month as a freelance email copywriter and list manager, which was great for 23, way more than I was making at that age. But I knew he had more potential, and Troy knew he had more potential, and that's why he was there. And so in 2020, Troy joined Accelerator, and within a few short months, he'd gone from making $6,000 a month on average to $30,000 a month, and he hasn't stopped since. Today, he's having $100,000 plus months, doing email list management, deliverability stuff, which we'll get into, working with 8 and 9 figure brands like Traffic and Funnels, VShred, Snow Teeth Whitening, Strategic Profits, and more. Troy is helping entrepreneurs scale their email list to over 6 figures per month by improving email deliverability, automation, strategy, and copy. And he's also a mentor to 250 plus copywriters, train them to become email list managers so they can create more opportunities for themselves and boost their income. So freaking awesome. And Troy, we are so happy to have you here today. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, thank you. I've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time. And it's just cool because you helped me get started on this whole journey, and it's been awesome, man. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear, I guess, starting when you first came in to the Freelancer Freedom event in December of 2019. Do you want to kind of share with people just where you were, how you got to that place, and sort of set the scene, and from there we'll kind of go through to where you are today. So yeah, what was Troy's life like in 2019?
When yeah, it started a little bit before that. So maybe some people know my story, but growing up, I was an only child, and all I ever did was hang out with my dad and play baseball. That was all I ever wanted to do. All I ever wanted to do in my life was play professionally. And when I say that, it wasn't from just oh, it would be nice. I literally practiced every single day with my dad for hours on the batting cage or throwing or whatever. And in high school, I had Tommy John surgery. My elbow just snapped one day during practice at the age of 16. And that's the most serious surgery you can have in baseball. Normally you don't have that unless you're 30 something in the big leagues, but I had it at 16. So I was out for a whole year, worked my way back, still made it to college baseball at the D3 level, ended up transferring to a D2 school. And then I had a little run-in with something called the yips, which is very common in throwing athletes as well as golfers, where you kind of just lose your ability to do simple things like throw a baseball or to, putt a golf ball. And it was extremely embarrassing. And I basically went from this guy who had probably the most potential in the team that year and did very well at the start. And I was nobody even trusted me anymore. And as a senior on my team next year, I got cut, which, as you can imagine, given that baseball was my identity at the time, it just got stripped away and I had no clue what to do with myself. I literally hid inside for 2 weeks. And at that point, I had dabbled in looking at online business stuff for a little while. But in those 2 weeks, I was you know what, I have to do something more serious if I want to not have a regular job. So I started looking into it, and I had a couple of different clients that I was sort of working with, but didn't really care that much. And then I had to take it more seriously at that point. So one of my clients, he actually gave me a ticket because his wife was expecting around the time of the first Copy Accelerator event. Because, I've been doing this for a little bit now, and it was $2,000 a month while I was still in school, but after I graduated, it was roughly $4,000 a month. So he just gave me this ticket to Copy Accelerator. And at first I was yeah, I don't I'm not into events really. I don't want to go to this thing. And he was like, okay. And at the time I was more interested in flying out to California and just enjoying this like first ever vacation that I had after college. But at the same time, I knew one of my other mentors, Ian Stanley, was out there, and I just DM'd him on Instagram. I was like, hey man, I'm going to be around Venice Beach. Is there any way that we could possibly meet up and just like talk for a few minutes? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, no way. So I showed up and I was talking to Ian. We had a good conversation. Then at the end, I was like, hey, what's your key to success? And he was like, I go to events. So I was like, oh. So I called back my mentor, Greg, who offered me the ticket. And I was like, hey, I'm so sorry for like being arrogant earlier, but I'm going to take that ticket. So I took it and I ended up at Copy Accelerator. And I don't even know if you like really knew who I was at that point or anything, but it was cool. I was like, oh, there was Justin and Stefan, the two guys that like Greg mentioned. It was cool. And I walked into this room just full of people who were crushing it. And I felt like I didn't really belong. But at that event, and then also the Freelancer Freedom event, which I actually paid for myself because I saw all the value from Copy Accelerator. Between those two events, at some point in there, you were just like, dude, you have so much potential. Like you could kill it with this. I know you were doing like Facebook ads and stuff, and now you're like kind of diving into email. I think you could really make something with this. And I always believed in myself. So like I believe that too, but I didn't even believe it as much as you did. And a lot of people close to me, as much as I love my family and stuff, they were like, hey, go get a job. Like, you know, $42,000 a year, you'll work your way up, all this. So yeah, you were the first one who said like, hey, I think you can really make something out of this. And that's kind of the story of how I ended up in this circle. And the next Copy Accelerator event, which was February 2020, you had seen some of my skill and you introduced me to a couple of people. And then about a month or two after that is when I was in the $30,000 a month range, honestly, just from all the copy projects and lists that I was managing. And since then I've gone on to create my own offers, and just, it's been really fun and exciting to scale this up, but that's kind of the long version of the story.
No, that's an awesome version. Yeah, honestly, when I was talking about freelancer freedom, but I forgot about September of 2019, which was the first time we officially met. But I love it. I mean, live events are, I'm the same way as Ian is, in that I mean live events changed my life in so many ways. And it's one of the reasons why I do a mastermind today, is because masterminds sort of changed everything for me. Like the connections, the confidence, the network, the doors being open, the mindset, I mean, all of those sorts of things. And so it's really neat to see that. And by the way, we do have a Copy Accelerator event coming up in Scottsdale, August 31st through September 2nd. This won't be turned into a Copy Accelerator secret webinar, but I'm going to pop a link to the letter in the Zoom chat and on Facebook Live. So for those who haven't seen the sales letter and want to apply to attend, you should, like as Troy can attest, these are life-changing types of events. I actually want to go back real quick to the yips, just out of curiosity, because I'm familiar with that concept as someone who's a big, fan of baseball, and I have golf as well. I golfed yesterday. Like, why do you think? Have you having more time, having kind of been separated between when it happened? Like, what do you think it was? Is it just like, is it mindset? Is it like confidence? Is it like just being in your own head? Like, what do you think causes people to get the yips? Because like Troy said, this when people just can't do basic things, like you're pitcher and you completely lose control, or maybe you're a pitcher and you can't throw over to first base, right? Like John Lester, pitcher, just refuses. He just stopped throwing to first base. It's like the gnarliest thing ever. It's like you can pitch 95, 97 miles per hour straight down the middle, no problem. But when he tries to throw the ball to first base, if there's a runner on, he just throws it away. So he just stopped doing it because he just freaked out. But like, I'm curious, Troy, like, is there any? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Why people get the yips?
Yeah, so it's still a lot of stuff I'm working through, and it still like pains me to think about it to this day. But at time kind of helps a little bit and breaks down some things. But honestly, I think it was twofold. So one, like, and a lot of entrepreneurs have this, but maybe not like in athletics, of course, but like you're very hard on yourself. That was the first thing, because like I always had super high expectations for my baseball career. My dad always had super high expectations, which was great because it got me to D2 college baseball. Not a lot of people make it that far. But at the same time, I had a really difficult time like forgiving myself for like making any little mistake. And then coupled with the fact that I had, the worst, like most aggressive surgery at the age of 16. And like going through that rehab process, like you're scared shitless the first time you pick up a ball and throw it again, because the last time you threw a ball, you had this pop in your arm and like tingling sensation all the way up. And like my coach is watching me, like I'm trying to make the varsity team in high school, like all these thoughts going through your head. And it just kind of like those two things combined, you put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect. And when it starts not going that way, you start to like really think about it too much. And it's kind of weird because like at first I just had problems like playing catch and I was like very nervous. I get on the mound and everything was fine. But then as time went on, it like flipped a little bit where it's like catch was a little easier, but then pitching got like harder. And then I just like lost everything. And at that point, it's like my coaches were watching and they knew that, you know, I was a shell of what I used to be. And that got in my head and it just turned into a massive snowball effect. And everything blew up. And it's still hard. It's like even like today when I think about it, like I'll go to the cage like by myself and just like throw because it's therapy for me. But it's like when other people are around or when I feel like there's like I have to like impress somebody, it's weird. So it's a very applicable lesson to life. You just can't like, you know, as much as like Justin says it, you just can't be too hard on yourself. And it's a very, very real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I imagine that's got to be brutal. I mean, I think what's interesting too, though, is that you, in a way, I see a lot of freelancers getting the yips as well, though, right? And suddenly they start overthinking everything. They can't write a basic email, like an email creative, right? Like it should take you 15 minutes, 20 minutes to write, like at most, right? Like sometimes like 10 minutes, 8 minutes. And then I'll see writers or freelancers who come in and they start overthinking it to where it's like days to write a single email creative. And it's kind of a similar concept. But I guess, so my follow-up question there is like, you know, going from within your freelancing career and now you're an opera owner and do other stuff too. Like, do you think maybe like the experience of having the yips in baseball like influenced how you operated as a freelancer as well? They helped with mindset and stuff like that?
Yeah, 100%. So there's actually a couple thoughts I have on this. So, and even if you don't like play a sport, like putting yourself through challenging things really helps. Because for example, when you're out on the mound in a pressure situation, you throw a pitch, like something happens, the ball gets hit or, you know, ball strike, whatever. You get the ball back and then, you know, nothing stops. It's like you have to throw the next pitch at some point in the next like 15, 20 seconds. Like you have no choice. Or like you throw a pitch, you have to make an adjustment, think about like, okay, within a few seconds, like what am I going to do next? How do I read the situation? All the things that are going on. But in business, things are very slow. Like when you tell me that if you put a timer on me and said, hey, you have 15 minutes to write this email, that feels like an eternity to me. So it's pretty crazy. Additionally, I just feel like there's a lot less pressure. So Chris Long, he played in the NFL for the Patriots and the Eagles for a while. And when he retired, he had this quote that really stuck with me. He said that, you know, when you're like after you retire, the highs aren't as high, but the lows aren't as low. So like I can't replicate that feeling of like throwing like 7 like shutout innings. I'll never feel like that good, but at the same time, I'll never feel as low as I did walking off the mound for the last time, knowing that I was going to get cut. Like that was painful.
Yeah.
And in business, like, yeah, there's some highs, but they can't get as high, but they can't get as low either. So it's definitely a weird trade-off. And everything, like, I truly believe everything happens for a reason. I know it sounds cheesy, but there's only one way that the world can happen, and that's the way that it does. There's no like alternate universes or anything. So like this was supposed to happen. As much as I didn't want it to, it led to something like amazing that I never could have seen.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I do love that perspective. And you know, I like talking about responsibility being that, you know, you can't really do anything about stuff that's going to happen to you, right? The world happens to you. It's an impartial and objective, right? But what's personal and subjective is the way you respond to stuff. And I think that's, you know, just super important because you're going to get curveballs, using the baseball pun kind of, but you're going to get curveballs thrown at you all the time, right? And like, it can be little things, but they could derail your day. I mean, I'm not gonna make this all about me, but like, you know, we had a truck tire blowout on Monday when Laura took her daughter to get, or our daughter to get ice cream. And, you know, then I had to like stop what I was doing and not go on this call. And then, but then I was like, wow, cool. I changed a flat tire. I've never done that before. Like I turned it into like a cool experience. And then, yesterday the internet went out in the most webinar and it's like, damn, like that sucks. But I was like, I wanted to golf and I was torn on whether I'd go out, I'm going to go golfing, and ended up like golfing on this beautiful mountain course and seeing like turkey and deer and all this stuff. And so, it's really about how you respond to stuff. Right. And it sounds like you have that same mentality, which is really powerful. I know the highs aren't as high and the lows aren't as low, but you've been having some pretty good highs lately. Like, I guess, financially, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing what you did in June, but if you are, I'd love for people to hear. But if not, I'm going to say, you can give it a ballpark on it. But basically, the question is, now that you're at that level, which I'll let you kind of say as much or as little about as you want to. How has your life changed? I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, so I'm okay with saying that it's in the 6-figure a month range. That's fine.
Yeah.
Confident in what I do. So it's been amazing. So, and I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of people will come on shows and stuff and they're like, oh, I had like nothing growing up. Like I had good parents growing up. I did. And it's like they did a lot for me. We sacrificed a lot to play baseball and all that stuff. And in general, like, I had a decent life growing up. But I never really had the ability to like make big decisions on my own. So as far as like what I have, like I live in a cool place in Florida. I was able to move out of the Midwest, move in to a pretty decent house like in Florida with my friends. And it's been amazing so far. I'm able to travel like whenever, wherever I want. Bought a Jaguar F-Type. I can spend a little more on just like things that are cool. I haven't done anything that's like too crazy because it's like, again, my parents instilled like, being financially responsible is important. But just being able to like learn at the next level and like really invest in my own education is what's really fun. So being able to do all those things and mainly just like have experiences, man, like that's what I really, really, really enjoy.
Yeah, that's great. But I guess how about, do you have more confidence going from where you were, back in 2019 to today? Because that's one thing that really changed for me when we're starting to make a lot of money, was like confidence. But then the danger or the trap is you start to equate your self-worth with the money you're making, right? And you're like, if I'm making lots of money, I'm killing it, I'm a great person. And then if you have a bad month or you're not making a lot of money, you're like, oh, now I suck, right? And so you have to get rid of that like kind of equivalency, because it's a false equivalency, right? Your value comes from inside of you and the person you are and your character and things like that. But those anxieties and fears, like a lot of those, like knowing as you're succeeding, like like wins breed more wins, right? They tend to like winning breeds winning. So have you felt like your confidence, has it really shifted or changed, or did you feel like you were always very confident and now just sort of like your earnings and income and growth have caught up with that? I'd be curious to hear.
Yeah, I'm definitely more confident, there's no doubt. And it's like, as with anybody, there's certain areas of my life where, I'm more confident than other areas. Like I always knew that I was going to like succeed in some level with business. I was sure about that in baseball too, but that didn't work out. But in business, I was like, okay, this game moves a lot slower than that game. And I know that over time I can win. I didn't think I'd win like this quickly. And like, what is winning? Like nobody really knows, right? But yeah, I'm definitely more confident now, although I was like pretty sure that I was gonna like kill it at some point. But yeah, it's like a lot of that stuff you're saying is true, but I'm more aware of it now. Like if I make less money this month, that little thing in the back of my head's like, dude, you're failing. And it's like, that's just how it is. Like every month for the rest of my life, it was probably going to be that way. But I'm more aware of it now. And I'm still hard on myself. Like if I don't get results for a certain person, like I'll feel terrible. If, something bad happens, I'll feel terrible, but then there's a lot of good stuff. So there's a lot more good than bad, but yeah, it's, I'm definitely more confident, but I always had, some level of belief in myself.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And from there, I want to shift into some email specific stuff. So I want to talk about kind of like list management, what that is for people who maybe don't really know a lot about it, and would be considering if that might be a good opportunity for them, and then the deliverability stuff specifically. So let's start with kind of the list management side of it and like what you're doing with helping and training others. I'd love to hear about that.
Sure, yeah. So the main thing that I'm trying to teach, like the big simple idea, is that there's a lot of copywriters out there. They do all their work in Google Docs and they just send out emails to people and they get paid one time. And it's kind of feast or famine. And it's like, maybe that client will be back next month, maybe not. But when you can manage an email list, you basically like writing gets your foot in the door, sure, but you can take it to the next level and like have control of your own list that you manage and the client trusts you to manage on a monthly basis. You can get paid more because you're writing just about every day and doing a few other valuable things that I'll get to in a minute, and it's on retainer. So when I started out, I was charging about 3K a month to write a daily, like after I figured this stuff out, to write a daily email, to work on automation. So for example, like if the really important automations are like abandoned cart, welcome series, like browser abandonment, sunset series, I do about one per week until they're all done. And then I also make sure all the emails land in the primary inbox. So it's like three pieces to it. And then the fourth one would just be like strategizing with the client. I have some, big wins to share with that too, like simple, takeaways. But it's like email is such a big part to business these days that when you have like the keys to that, it's really hard to get fired. And if you are a decent writer, you can crush it for a client and they'll happily pay you more. So eventually then I figured out like, hey, I should probably increase my prices, add a bonus on the back end for performance, all of that stuff. So I'm getting money up front as well as after the month. And there's just a lot of positives that go into list management. And the main for me, especially when I didn't have a ton of clients when I first started, was that I don't have to worry that this money is going to disappear next month because I'm doing a great job for this client and they're paying me on retainer.
Awesome. Sorry, I mute myself. Cool. And so how did you get your first kind of clients for doing list management? Was it just people you were writing daily emails and you just pitched them on it, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so it was actually, I think I got my first one before I even knew you, but I wasn't really even sure what list management was because I started in Facebook ads. Like that was the very first thing. I took this course from a guy named Grant Cooper. He had an agency called Social Vantage. I think he's doing well now in something else for gyms, but he taught me so much. And then I went on Upwork and got my first few clients, probably like many people here. And eventually I found Greg, one of my first mentors, and we kind of shared this big project together. Gary Vee was a part of it. They had like NFL players as sponsors. It was called Burger Box. They would like mail burgers to you. It's like a meal kit, but it was unhealthy.
Nice.
So like I started running ads for that and I like showed them funnels. They'd never seen it. And it was like kind of doing okay. And then it failed. And then I was like, oh man, this kind of sucks. I lost one of my two clients. But Greg was like, hey, I want to start this other project called Hustle Island, where we teach people the basics of entrepreneurship. And that thing took off right away. We did like a free plus shipping offer with a t-shirt that said hustle on it. It was like made up of a bunch of smaller words like persistence, grit, hard work. And then we built up this email list of 147,000 people. And it was after a year. We had like 22,000 customers, 147,000 subs. And Greg was like, hey man, we really haven't been dabbling in email. Have you ever managed like, any type of email stuff before? And I was like, no. He's like, okay, you have the job. And I was like, all right. So I just like hopped in and like completely failed at everything. And, like we were going to spam, like I was sending emails that didn't make any sense. I was like putting them all in an autoresponder and just like saying random things and linking to products and had no clue what I was doing. So that was one way. And then in another way, one of my other, like I had two clients. So that was one client. And then the other one, they wanted to fire me so I wouldn't run their Facebook ads anymore. I was like, hold up, the stats in Facebook look pretty good. What's the problem here? And they're like, no, you're fired. I'm like, no, you're going to tell me what's wrong. And they're like, okay, so our emails suck. And I was like, all right, so like, let me sign in and try to fix this because I have dabbled in this before. So I went in and like basically took everything that I failed at with Hustle Island and like use those lessons to help them like get out of spam and write emails that made more sense and write more emails, frankly. So I took that email list, I think from like 13K a month to like 47 or like 52. I can't remember what the peak was, but that was another big win. So I was like, all right, I might as well like do this for more people because there's a lot of Facebook ad people out there in this red ocean. I want to go over here to this blue ocean, which at the same time, copywriting was getting more popular from, some of the gurus that were really pushing it in like 2017, 18. So by 2019, I kind of had dabbled in writing and sort of knew list management. I just didn't know where to find a lot of clients until I found your stuff.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I love that they want to fire you and you're just like, nah. Like, but that is so powerful, man. That's like, because most people don't respond that way. They say, right, like, oh shucks, okay. Like, and the fact that you were like, let me get to the root of what it is and I can fix it, is powerful. And I love also that when the opportunity was presented to you for the list management stuff, you didn't say, well, I don't know how to do it, I'm not ready. Because so many freelancers, oh, I'm not ready, I've never done it before, I'm not like, it's like, well, when are you ever going to do it? If you keep saying I'm not ready every time, or I've never done this, then you'll never be ready. You'll never do it. You have to just dive in and get experience. So I just love that. I resonate with that a ton because I did the same thing early on in my freelancing career with like, I built WordPress websites, I did SEO for people, just all kinds of things like that. I had no idea how to do, but I'd be like, oh yeah, totally, I can do that, right? And I would learn. Like you can learn. Nothing's that complicated, right? I mean, that's something I think is so important. Like, we're not rocket scientists. We're not building bridges, right? It's like we're sending emails. We're like in active campaign or Entreport or whatever, right? So that's really awesome. And then to transition over to the deliverability side, do you have like a truly like irresistible offer, which is like, hey, basically pay me money and I'll make sure that almost all of your emails land in the primary tab of Gmail and not the promotions tab, which is worth a shit ton of money because people, maybe check their promotions tab once a day. Some people never check them, but they check everything in their primary tab. So you don't have to give away, and it's like not hard. It's like a little code basically you put in, but like, how did you come? I mean, it's so crazy. How did you come about that offer? I'd love to hear a little bit more of the origins of it.
Yeah, sure. So it kind of goes back to what you were saying about just jumping into things and trying them. And I think so many people would be better off if they did that. And I certainly never would have found this like strategy if I didn't do that. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, those two first clients taught me about like how to avoid spam, which sure, it's like, keep good list hygiene, only send to people who have opened recently, test your emails, make sure they're not going to spam, send good content that's congruent. I could say 1,000 different things, but and then I'm not gonna lie, I stumbled across like Ian's product about it, which is, what I call like the hard way. It's a great product and Ian's awesome, but it definitely takes a lot of time to like kind of guess and check your emails. But again, like I'm a very hard worker and very diligent in what I do. So like I was testing, like I would not allow a single client's email to go to the promo tab. I just wouldn't do it because I saw the difference in open rates and revenue. So I said, okay, I'm going to sit here and figure out every single email until it goes to the primary tab. Sometimes it took an hour for me to figure out how to do it. And naturally, when it takes that long, you're like, there has to be a better way. So you play around with things, you notice patterns that you're testing, and you're like, this seems to work better. And you kind of like get a clue and you keep going down that rabbit hole until you find something. So essentially what I have now, it used to be like just HTML code, but then for compliance, I had to like change the offer a little bit. Still works in the same like manner. But honestly, I think it works better. I can create more sales with the way that I do it now. And I've seen like Mike Geary do similar things with this as well. But yeah, what I did is basically studied like what the algorithm looks for with my own testing, as well as like Glock apps and a whole bunch of other tools. And I just modified the email template, not like just plain text, like there's other things to do to it as well. But it basically like approves it with Gmail where it doesn't look as promotional. And you can definitely send emails, get at least 90% or so into the primary tab. For some people, it works for all emails. But at the end of the day, there was just a lot of hard work that went into it. And I've really got it bulletproof now where, like I said, 90% plus, it's compliant. I made a lot of changes to it this year and it's getting amazing results for people. And that's my number one offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy offer. I literally, Warren Phillips was DMing me yesterday on Facebook and he's like, I don't know if he hired you yet or he's about to hire you, but he's like, I'm hiring your boy Troy. Like, how could I say no to that? Like, and I was like, seriously, it's an irresistible offer. And I think, that's so important because like, right, hey, I'll write emails for you. It's like, cool. A million people will do that. Like, hey, I'll get 90% of your emails into the primary tab on Gmail. If you're an offer owner, again, that's worth 6-7 figures a year. Like many people it's worth 7 figures a year. And like, you frankly don't even charge that much for it, all things being, relative to the amount of the ROI. Do you run into high level potential clients who are resistant to it? And then if so, how do you kind of help to get them on board and understand how valuable this is?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I run into, which I totally understand, is they think I'm doing like some black hat, like under the table hacking Gmail or something. I'm like, no, dude, it's actually way simpler than that. It doesn't even require like a code or anything. I literally just tweak your template and you're good to go. And maybe some of those like smarter, like maybe not smart, but like people that have been in email for a long time in here, maybe they get like a hint of what I'm doing. But the thing is, like, you're like, I'm gonna put in more work than you. Like, I have so much data on this computer that I'm using right now based off of everything that I've tested, that's gonna work. And the main resistance I get is they just assume that it's like bad. And I get that. Like, I'm selling something that seems too good to be true. I get it. But after I do it for people, they're like, wow, that's genius. And I wouldn't even use the word like clever. I would say creative is the best word to describe it. It's got amazing results for people. It's compliant. And that's what I can tell people. And I'll jump on the phone and be like, hey, I get it. Like, it sounds weird, but I wouldn't have done this for over 170 people and gotten all the amazing testimonials and results that I've shown you if it didn't work. And plus the fact that Gmail puts it into primary shows that like it's good content. Like, people want to see it. And if you're helping their users be more satisfied, like that's what every software on earth wants right now. So yeah, that's probably the main amount of resistance. And another thing I think too is just like human bias. Like, I'm 25. There are people that talk to me who have been doing email for more than 25 years. And it's like, I've never seen anything like this. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's new. It's an exciting new idea. And just because it's new doesn't mean that I just like came up with it last night. Like, I would like to say that I have a lot of credibility, and I'm just trying to portray that to people because I just want to be skeptical with them and help them understand what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for people, I like to do this in the middle of the episode versus the end. I mean, for people who want to reach out to you about, learning stuff around list management, or they want to hire you to make sure that all their emails inbox. Which seriously, if you're a business owner doing over $1 million a year, like it's the most no-brainer thing I've ever seen if you email regularly. And if you don't email regularly, you should also talk to Troy because he can help or hook you up. But just for people in general who want to follow you, like what are the best ways for people to kind of engage with you?
Yeah, sure. And the funny thing is, like, you don't have to be doing anywhere near $1 million because I don't charge like that much compared to what I should charge for this.
Trying to
Because
qualify people for you. Yeah,
it's
you're
so simple that like there's no way I could put it on subscription. That's the thing that like keeps me up at night, is like, I wish I could put this on subscription, but it's too simple that when I show you it, you're like, wow, that's smart. And then you can just like do what I show you. But gmailpromotab.com, I got that domain last night specifically for this episode. But if you have any like questions, of course, you can message me on Facebook or email me. But gmailpromotab.com is going to have the main like information about that offer. As far as like getting on my list in general, what I do is I give people this email like FAQ sheet where it has like literally every question about email, like how do I increase my open rates? How do I come up with content when I have nothing to say? How do I grow my email list organically? All that stuff is at faqemail.com. So those are like the main two things. And the FAQ thing is free.
awesome. Popping that one in the chat too here. faqemail.com.
Cool.
Obviously I put FAK because apparently I can't spell. Sweet, man. Yeah, I mean, it's so badass. So seriously, for people who want to learn more from Troy, make sure that you get on his list. And that FAQ thing is ridiculous. I think it's so smart you did that too. It also saves you having to answer the same questions again and again and again. Because I get that with my email list too, right? Where it's like, how do I get my first client? Like that's like a lot of his client related questions, but it's like I should probably copy and swipe you and do that because it's super smart.
Yeah, feel free. And that was a lot of the stuff that I shared with Rich Sheffrin recently on Steal Our Winner, is just basically anytime I have like a reply email at the beginning of an automation, like obviously it's great for deliverability, it's great for learning about your audience, knowing what they want to buy. But then I just automate the reply to them with a document that has all the answers to the questions that other people have asked. And a lot of people ask the same question, and they click on it, they save it, they share it with their friends. And then I have like little upsells throughout it. So it works incredibly well and people love it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Sweet. I want to go to the questions from the audience. I'm nervous about my Wi-Fi here. It seems to be doing fine, but I figured rather than let's jump in. I know because Fade asked the first question, and maybe we'll both answer it. He said he can't talk, so I'll just read it out loud. He said, If you can choose only one of these options, do you prefer to run your own offer or being a freelancer? So I'd love to hear your answer to that, Troy, and then I'll answer as well.
Sure. So, I mean, if I had to answer it like immediately, I would say run your own offer. But I do want you to keep in mind that being a freelancer is the step to being an offer owner, right? So like a lot of people, when they have too many clients, are like, oh no, like I can't stand clients. But like clients are like, they're amazing. Like when you start out, like you need clients to learn, and you're learning on somebody else's dime, and you're learning things that frankly you can't just learn by doing stuff immediately on your own, at least not without spending a lot of, you know, extra years and millions of dollars. So clients are a blessing. And if you eventually have the aspiration to, you know, own your own offer, 100% do it, but try to get a lot of stuff like down with your clients first. And then there's other people too. They just want to like freelance, like Jared Harlan. Like he makes a lot of money every month just working like 10 hours a week so he can spend time with his daughter. He just wants to be a freelancer. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I'm wired differently. And I just like, I don't know why, but I just want to like keep going up and up and up and never stop.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm super aligned with you on that. I agree. I mean, I think because I really try and have freelancers think about themselves as running a business, right? It's like the business of you, and you're doing like the sales, you're doing the fulfillment, you're doing the customer service, you're doing the customer retention, like you're doing all these things that you would do with any other business, right? Accounting, bookkeeping, everything. So I think it's a great first step for a lot of people. And then I also agree, some people, if you're really going after like lifestyle and it's like, hey, I'm going to work a limited number of hours a week. I like, have it set up good. I'm making this money. It's kind of like, I know what I'm going to make each month and I'm happy with that. Then, I think freelancing can be really solid. And, running businesses is risky. For all the awesome success stories, there's people out there who, put a lot of money into businesses that fail. That being said, one thing I want to throw in there, because I wrote an email to my list today about how some of the accounting people I work with had been slow to respond on stuff, and I was getting pissed off and all of that. And I talked about a freelancer who I helped get like some opportunities, and he basically dropped the ball at the end. And I talked about how communication is so important, right? Actively and proactively communicating with clients. And then a couple of people replied back to the emails, and they're like, "Yeah." And saying of clients, like clients should respond to you right away too. And I was like, "Yeah, nah, not really. They don't have to. They're the client." So I think one thing like that, I'll probably end up writing an email about this too, but like, the client has more power ultimately, right? Like the client has more power. They don't have to respond to you. They don't have to do anything. Like, and as a freelancer, you're ultimately in a customer service position, which is, great. You should own it and embrace it. But there is potentially more freedom as the client because you're beholden to less people, right? Like if you're selling your products and services, like you're good, right? As long as everything's like kind of operating smoothly versus as a freelancer, it's not. So I think that there's more power ultimately in being kind of like a offer owner, business owner, whatever. But I think freelancing is an awesome step. So that's my spin on it. But it's pretty much the same thing you said, just a different way of looking at it here.
Yeah, 100%. It's there's so many like different ways to like be successful or be successful in your own mind. So like a lot of people will be like, oh, what should I do? Should I do like copywriting or focus on email or Facebook ads, or like should I start my own like Shopify store? I'm like, dude, like there's successful people doing everything. You just got to do something you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important too. Actually enjoying what you're doing is really, really crucial. Isaac had asked how you transitioned from writing copy to managing lists, but we kind of talked about that already. So I'm going to mark that one as answered. An anonymous attendee was like, what's the biggest struggle you're facing right now for you as a freelancer? I mean, I guess we can both answer that. I mean, our struggles will be different, I think, from other people maybe earlier on, but I'll let you go, Troy, and maybe share anything you have to say about that.
Yeah, so I'd say right now, like I've gotten really a lot better at time management, and through all the things that you've taught, and Justin, as well as like Alex Becker, Sam Ovens, a lot of really smart people. But I still find myself sometimes like trying to manage like the crazy number of just like things that are flying at me, which then prevent me from doing the number one thing that's going to make me like the most money, have the most impact in the least amount of time. So definitely just like being able to handle all these things and like finding people that I trust and being able to delegate and not having that thing in the back of my head that's like, oh, this has to be perfect. you have to do it yourself. And there's some people on this call too that are on my team now, and you do an amazing job. And it's like I pretty much just go off of people in my circle and like referrals, and like they're like all stars and they do an awesome job, and just like being able to trust them is like kind of the answer to my problem. But yes, it's definitely just being able to like understand that I could be like going for a walk and like not thinking about anything, and the world isn't going to fall apart.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I agree. I think for me, I'm not doing too much freelance stuff at this current moment, but I'll take on the occasional project. I guess, yeah, like sometimes it's time. Like I taught a lot about time management. I'm pretty good at it at this point. But there's still times where there are challenges. One thing that, and Troy, this well, like Justin and I talk about kind of your magic time, where there's like the couple hour block where you get your most kind of important pressing tasks done each day. Historically for me, that was always in like the morning from maybe like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I mean, it still is, but one thing I went through for the last month or two was where my daughter started waking up earlier. So she started waking up at like 7:15. Then she was like doing like camp, and I didn't have to, but to drive her to camp every single day. We got a dog. So then the dog at first wasn't like completely like kind of, I don't know, he did just take forever to go to the bathroom in the morning, and I had to like do stuff with him. And, I found myself not having this magic morning time that I would usually have, and getting very grumpy and irritated about it. But because then that would be my magic time for freelancing, right? For example, but what I've, done really honestly is a couple of things. I mean, one thing is that I started going to bed earlier again, because like I was trying to go to bed later, which meant when I go to bed earlier, I wake up earlier. So maybe my magic time has to be from 5 to 7. So it's like I made the adjustment, right? I've cut back my drinking drastically. Like I've drinking maybe one night of the last 2 weeks, where before that, as people who know me for a while know, I would drink like, every single day, not like heavily, I wouldn't get wasted, but, I'd have a couple of tequilas in the evening, whatever it is. And, but then I'm like, well, if I do that, I'm not going to work. Right. Which is cool. I don't want to work every evening and get burned out, but like, because I'm not drinking now, it's like, well, if I still got stuff to do after my daughter goes to bed, I want to take an hour or two and, do it, I'll just do it. And I find that I have just more mental energy when I wake up in the morning. Like I can dive into work faster. I don't need this like time for the fog to burn off. And so I guess, just sharing like that with people, because it's sort of like annoying that it changed, but it's like, well, going back to response dash ability, it's like, well, I mean, it sort of is what it is. I mean, I could get rid of the dog. I could be not as involved of a father to my daughter. Like, I'm like, I don't do that stuff. I'm like, so I just have to find a way to make adjustments. But that was probably my biggest challenge recently, was around, changes in scheduling and things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And I've talked about this a lot before, but like Alex Becker's concept of dopamine detox, like if you're ever struggling with any of these things, like whether it's like drinking or like using your phone too much or like going out too much, and like whatever it is, the first few days are really rough, but the whole like 80-20 of the thing is like you just have to stop doing that thing cold turkey for like 3 days. And then at the end of those 3 days, like your brain's like expectation for the dopamine will like slowly go down, and you won't want to do it anymore. And for some things it's going to take longer than that, but like I did that with my phone, and now I have like no desire to scroll on Instagram anymore. It's just like I don't want to. And when you think about it, like dopamine is a lot different than happiness, because like dopamine is like, what is the least painful thing I could do right now? And for a lot of people, it's like scroll on my phone. Now, do you actually enjoy scrolling on your phone? Probably not. It's just the least painful thing to do in the moment. So that's something that helped me tremendously.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I've talked about that as well, and huge fan of that. And just like, not staying on Facebook. Like I have to go on Facebook for like copy Accelerator stuff or whatever else, or, creating content, right? Because I create content, but I don't just stick around. I don't start scrolling. Same thing with Instagram. It's like if I'm in there, I'm talking to people in DMs, but like that's about it. Slack, ignoring Slack most of the day. Gmail, all that stuff, right? It's like, I mean, our lives are like going around just being like slot machines basically, or just constantly wanting, like it's like we're surrounded by slot machines that want us to pull the lever, and you gotta say no, but it becomes like a discipline and a habit. So yeah, I think that's super super important. I will see Marilee or Marley wanted to know a little bit more about the Email Secrets Mastermind because she's really considering joining, and I'm sure other people will be interested too. So totally happy to have you share a little bit about that. Here, Troy.
Yeah, sure. So basically what that is, it's a group where I teach people the exact things that I was talking about earlier. How to go from a copywriter to an email list manager. So we've got beginners in there, and we've got people like all the way up as high as like Jay Diebold, who runs Credit Secrets. So we've got everybody in between. And what it is essentially there is a whole like library of different trainings that I've made in regard to like how to scale an email list, how to get your first client, how to like do very like advanced things that people have questions on. And the reason I know these things help is because like the video library is made from questions that people have asked me. So that's one thing. We do have a job board as well. I do also offer like feedback. A lot of it is copy, and a lot of it is also just like strategy in regard to scaling an email list. So those are some of the main things you get. We have bi-weekly calls where we pick different topics, have different guests. And those are like the main perks to it, right? In the community, like a lot of people really, value community. So it's like, it's similar to a lot of other groups with a couple of things, but it's just very specific for email and becoming a list manager. And it's pretty advanced. And the price point is still super low on that. It's $49 a month, and it's like $1 trial, but that is going to start increasing. The first increase happens on July 4th. So at leadparamedic.com, you can sign up for that, and then you're grandfathered in. But eventually this will be like an actual mastermind. I'm not ready for that yet. I've got a lot of things to focus on before that, but it will be there eventually.
Sweet. Sorry, I was putting the links into the chat and on Facebook Live too. So cool. Thanks for sharing that. Leadparamedic.com. I like it. You're getting more questions than almost any guests have had in a while.
I love it.
Yeah, man. The next one comes from John Michael Williams, who wants to know about kind of picking and choosing for opportunities. So John, I'm going to bring you on. I'll let John ask a question, and then we'll go from there. So let me find John here. Cool. What's up, John?
Hey, Stefan and Troy, big fans. I'm on both of you guys' list. You guys always bring the content. Quick question. So, how do you know when to pass on opportunities, perhaps that may not be? So, if you're trying to align, purpose with what you're doing, and so opportunities will come, and so. How do you know when maybe to pass on something that looks like it could be a very perfect fit, and go for your gut, which is telling you go another direction, and that other direction is not guaranteed though. So how do you balance that and make that choice?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I mean, let me actually get some clarity on this. Are you talking about when you get client opportunities, should you say yes or no? Or are you saying you're at a fork in the road where you're eyeing one opportunity, or you could just say no to that and take a completely different opportunity?
So it's kind of like a fork in the road where I think that I would have some opportunity to go left and build with something possibly that would be really cool, or go right and still build that with some people that I trust a little bit more. So that kind of gives you an idea, I think.
Okay, so if I'm at a fork in the road, and this might sound like it just extremely tactical and logical and all that, but the thing that helps me the most is just writing down everything that I know about each path. Because if I can't see it on paper, my mind is just jumbling around so many things, and I can't ever think about what the exact thing is because there's too many factors. So I'm writing down everything. As far as finances are concerned, a lot of people forget about the time aspect to this too, right? So there's a few things that go into this. Money, you can always get that, but time, every second that goes by, we have one less. So you really need to factor in that everything we're doing is not just money, but it's also a time trade-off. So maybe if you could calculate okay, well, if I take this job, here's what I'm realistically going to be paid every hour, factoring in, driving or doing this or things I'm not being paid for. And then here's, my passion over here where I'm trying to make it work. Here's what I need to invest. Here's the time that I need to put in. Just figuring out what's going to make you really happy and kind of go with your lifestyle. Or maybe if it's a client, another thing you need to keep in mind is like, even though like you might be scared to pitch a certain price to a client, keep in mind that that's just like the upper level of the range, right? So like maybe there's a maximum amount the client's willing to pay, which you could get up with bonuses and so forth. But there's also a minimum, right? Like, because it's not just the client. There's two people, there's them and there's you. So like, what is the minimum that you're willing to do it for? So if the price is somewhere like above your minimum and below their maximum, there should be a deal struck. But just make sure that you can factor in time and happiness and finances and just like living out your passion. I don't want to sound cheesy by any means, but
No,
that's kind of what I can say just from the limited info that I know.
sounds perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for the question. Sweet. So that one's good. Okay, so Bobby has a question, but then Bobby changed his question, but said, I want to change my question, but I want to speak and ask Troy. It's about list management stuff. I hope I will be approved. So yeah, we'll approve you, Bobby. And as long as it's not, yeah, I'm curious. You got my curiosity. So Bobby, come on, dude. Ask away.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Stefan. Without wasting any time. Okay, Troy. So, I just want to ask you something about email marketing. So briefly, I started setting up flows for clients on Klaviyo, writing the automations and stuff like that, like, welcome series and stuff like that. And I want to ask you, did you start from there? I mean, doing something similar? And about the sales page, I just checked it. So you're teaching stuff like that. I mean, how to set up the flows, how not your emails not to land in the promotion step and stuff like that. Am I going to get all of this? So that's it. Thanks.
Yeah. So to answer the question, I think the first part was like, what should you do first? So yeah, like if you get a new client in Klaviyo, for example, the most important thing you probably do, it depends on what the business is, but like I'm going to assume it's ecomm because it's Klaviyo. Abandoned cart flow is probably most important. And setting it up, having like roughly 5 emails in there instead of like 1 or 2, answering people's objections in those emails, that's all really important. Now you can work on like a welcome series, and obviously the goal with that is to make sure that people are reaffirmed in their decision. They understand what they just bought, and then after that you try to like upsell them into the next thing. Browse abandonment's good too. It's similar to abandoned cart, but they don't need to go all the way to checkout because they already have their email. So like if they click to a product and they don't buy, you can hit them with a follow-up. So those are probably really 3 that are super important. And then broadcasts, of course, because sending more emails is like, there's 2 things that are actually super simple that are going to be like the 80-20 of things. One is sending more emails, and 2 is making sure people see those emails. Yep. So as far as like all the automations and things that you've like mentioned, I go over like all that stuff. And if you see anything, or if you don't see something in the group that you want an answer to, then you just post and you say like, hey, can somebody help me with this? And then I make a video about it, and then your question is answered. As far as deliverability, yes, I do go over a lot of things with that, between like spam and promo. Obviously, it doesn't include, my whole like get out of the promo tab offer, but I do give you like some tips on how to do it, the longer, like harder way, essentially. But for spam, I do have a full training in there on that one.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
Sweet. Thanks for the question, Bobby. Next up, Fade asked a question, but he left, so I'm not going to do that one for now. Chad Fallman has a question. I'm going to bring in Mr. Chad. Always bringing that good energy, that Chad Fallman. Chad, what's up?
Hey, we're doing some good stuff here. I love it. You're 2 handsome gentlemen, and it's good to see your face on here, Troy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, so here's the question I have. Now, I've had quite a bit of success recently taking on 6 clients, and I've also amassed a little bit of a following just naturally. So there's people that come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for gigs. I'm trying to build my skill set. Can you help me out? And I say, sure. Whenever I can, I love to help people out. Now, that being said, for the time invested, when I get these gigs and I'm training people, I still got to revise their content. I still got to correct them and educate them, and that's all fine. But I look at the time investment and I said, well, I could probably get to a point where I'm getting on 10K, 20K gigs at a pop and just doing it all myself. Now, the problem, of course, is that there's an obvious ceiling there. So I'm really just looking for either of your perspective where you think I should go, because both of you know me quite well, and I would appreciate any feedback that you had in that realm.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head to an extent. It's like, yeah, of course, there's going to be a limit when you're doing freelance work. Now, having a team around you is going to increase that limit at some point. Obviously, you're sacrificing a little bit of profitability, but most of the time it's worth it, because as long as you're not like breaking even or close to that, like it makes sense to add more members to your team. Even in what I'm doing, there's a limit. Like, sure, like 6 figures a month, it sounds cool and all, but there's still a limit. I like need to bring on more people, because like a couple of people on my team are very overworked right now. And I'm working really hard to try and fix these scaling problems. But they are going to happen. The only like real way, and I mean, there's a limit in everything, but like one of the fastest ways, and Stefan probably knows a lot more about this than I do. But just running like a physical product business like sounds easier, because like I don't have to fulfill services. And you can probably scale that way further, but then again, you run into your own issues with like inventory and all that stuff. So, I mean, you can do very, very, very well with services if you have a good team around you. So I wouldn't necessarily shy away from it. But it's like, you just have to do something that you enjoy the most and understand like, hey, if I'm not making like 500 grand a month, it's okay. And maybe I'm making enough right now, or I don't know what your goals are, but there's and what I'm doing, I definitely recognize that there's like some level of scaling limits, but you can mitigate that with other stuff as well, like bonuses and whatnot. But there's other business models that would probably scale further. It's just that I don't really want to put the time investment into that, and I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much.
I see. Before you answer, Stefan, Troy, to clarify, my goal is 7 figures. I'm willing to accept a certain level of dispassion to get there, and a certain level of stress. That's what my intention
I'm
is.
okay with stress, but when you say dispassion, it's like, that makes me think you're going to do something you don't want to do to make 7 figures. And I will like, just be aware of that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, man.
And because I think, I mean, generally, like you're gonna have an easier time making 7 figures with something that you're passionate about, right? Like that's just like the truth. Doesn't mean, you know, like there's people who are investment banking or lawyers and they're not that passionate about it and they still, you know, find a way to make 7 figures. But realistically, if you can be passionate about something, it's just a lot easier because you'll be more motivated to get up and do stuff. You'll, on the shitty days, you'll keep going, all that kind of stuff too. You know, on that, the kind of question of like, you know, just sort of being a lone wolf versus, you know, building a team and coaching them, or even coaching other people and having a coaching offer, because they're kind of the same thought for that, is like, it's really just more about building up to that ROI, right? So you're just sacrificing more short-term, but you know, the long-term upside is potentially much better. And where people get into trouble when they build teams is all that upfront investment, right? It's like, because people do, and they're like, fuck, this is a lot of work. Like I've got to like, you know, I'm like what you said earlier, like I've got to like, you know, hire them and train them and teach them and correct them and fix stuff and all that. And it can take like months and months and months. You know, on the flip side, once the people are really dialed in and then you can go and scale more, you know, you're basically creating like an agency, right? Then you can work significantly less and it can keep growing and scaling, and people who have risen up with you and been trained can then be put in charge of training more people. So you don't have to do it in the future. They're the ones doing it. You can eventually have a full-time sort of trainer. You have your SOPs, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, ultimately it's great. One of the reasons I don't like the agency model so much is because often people just aren't going to do any of those things. And, you know, they don't have experience managing people and payroll and HR and all this other stuff. And so they sort of get overwhelmed. They end up making way less money. The people who they hire don't really succeed, and it becomes like a failure for that reason. It doesn't have to be, but it's a lot of work. And then even if you do like a coaching group, right, where you like, if you're following, you coach and teach people and do like a mastermind or something like that. You know, it's kind of the same thing. Like it has to build up to where it's actually worthwhile, because it is a lot of work even there. But you know, if you hit scale, it's obviously quite amazing as well. I'm not sure if those thoughts help you, Chad, or not, but that's what I got.
Well, here's another thought. If you were to build an agency today, would you, and you're already kind of doing this, would you take it would you source people from like RMBC method and what have you? So going back in time a little bit, would you maybe create a program earlier where they're going through this boot camp, and then from there you're taking them and offering those people gigs because you know at least they have a baseline of skill?
Yeah, it would depend. I mean, like, because like with the supplement JV thing I'm doing, and I wrote like the first offer, which will probably go live next week, and I think is gonna crush. And then I have Luke Mills writing a second offer, and I'm gonna basically split my profit with him on it, which can make him millions of dollars. So he's pretty excited about that. And then, but long term, right? This company is at 60 million a year. The goal is to get to like, $500 million a year, whatever. So like, and I don't, and I'm very, very clear with the person I'm partnering with, where it's like, I don't have to write all the offers, of course. So I'm also going to be building out a whole copy team, right? So what am I going to do? Yeah, I mean, probably mostly I'll hire people from Copy Accelerator and RMBC, people that I know are good. I mean, that's what I did with Luke Mills. It's like he was in RMBC. I saw like, his letters, like they were good. Then we did like these contests in Copy Accelerator and he kept winning. And, finally, and then I asked him to help me with something to finish like a project that was like, I'd done most of the hard work, but I was like, hey, can you try and fill in some of these blanks for me? Because I'm getting pressed for time. And I was like, we'll see what happened. And he just like did it, nailed it. And then finally, after like a year plus, I was like, I trust him. But there's other writers, and I mean, to be completely honest with you, I'd probably pick people from Copy Accelerator over RMBC because like Copy Accelerator is just even, RMBC is amazing for getting your copy to where it needs to be, but Copy Accelerator is like, I'm seeing their copy, I'm really interfacing with them more. I'd probably do that. I could do it the other way where I hire people from scratch for like 50. And frankly, maybe it's a hybrid because maybe I do some of those, the big guns for that stuff, but we want to like cultivate new talent. So maybe we want to have people in-house or local, at which point what I've done in the past is like, I'll literally put ads on Craigslist, like, hey, like, going to pay you like $20 an hour, $30 an hour, something like that, and teach you how to like write advertisements and basically train them from scratch. But those people would have a much longer journey and I wouldn't be giving them like long form copy and promos and things. I think if I started an agency today that I would, kill it. I think I could do great with an agency today because of all my mistakes I've made. But I still think I would not enjoy it because no matter how much we kill it, there would still be unhappy clients and people complaining and, times where we don't fulfill and me having to manage a bunch of pieces. All right. I put the systems in place for that, but ultimately if you're the agency owner and you get a big client, right? Like they come to you. They're like, you can be like, this is your account rep, this is your person, but someone's unhappy, they're ultimately going to come to you. And then you're dealing with, all of these headaches that for me, it's just not worthwhile. It's like, I'd rather just scale my own stuff and frankly, do physical products. And if Copy Accelerator, it's well established at this point. So, yeah.
Right on. Well, you've both given me some things to think about. I appreciate it. And I won't hog the spotlight any longer. So the others can ask you some questions there.
Cool, man. Well, that was a great question.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude. That's a good question. So let me finish that one. Ron, Javier, I'll read off the next couple, kind of do a little more rapid fire probably, but Ron said, can you speak about people worrying about iOS 15 making open rights irrelevant?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's like the ESPs haven't even responded to that yet because they don't know. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is it's actually going to be the opposite of what a lot of people are thinking. So all the emails that are like sent out to like people in the mail app are going to show up as opened. So your open rates are actually going to like look like they're way higher. So you're just going to have to do a really good job, like before it happens, like today, like try to set this up where you're tracking engagement. Let's say you have like a 90-day period where somebody doesn't open an email, you kick them off the list, which is generally a good principle. You're gonna have to really start paying attention to clicks and replies and other ways of like knowing that people are engaging with your emails. And the sooner you set that up and the sooner you fix spam problems, promo problems, all that stuff, the easier it's going to be when iOS 15 comes out. If you wait until then, it's going to be a little late because then you have no previous data and you just have a whole bunch of people and you're just like blindly guessing whether or not they've been engaged. But if you set it up right and you have all the stuff done in advance and you can tell when people are like clicking and engaging, then you should be fine because it's not like it's going to affect the actual number of people opening your emails. It's only going to be the tracking. But if you don't do it now, then it's just going to be this big mystery. And after a couple months of iOS 15, you could be in the spam folder if you're sending to a whole bunch of people that aren't engaged.
Cool. Awesome answer. Next question is from James, who is asking, I guess this is for me, but he said, you said clients have more power and they don't have to respond, and you're right, but how do you go about getting them to respond so I can get that high paying client? Well, yeah, James, so I was talking more specifically once they've already hired you, especially, you send them the work and you're like, here it is. And they're like, great. And you're like, can I get updates? Can I get this? Or maybe you need something to finish the job. And it takes them a long time. And there's not really a ton you can do there besides being persistent. But to your question about how do you get them to respond? If they're like a prospective client, you're trying to land, like Justin and I did that whole training yesterday. If you didn't watch it, please go watch it, because we basically show you the exact blueprint for how to do it. It's in Justin's 7 Talk Copy. There's a replay there. You can go see it, or on Justin's YouTube channel. But besides that, like, you just follow up, man. Like I talk about this so much because it's so crazy. Like, people just will email once or twice or something like that. And then if I don't respond, they give up. Like I always try to say, like, I'm not, like, even today I have people soliciting me, like people solicit me a lot, but like I'm not a good person to solicit to write copy for, because like I can write my own copy. Like people are like, hey, here's some email creatives, right? Which is a cool approach and strategy. Like I'm like one of the best copywriters in the world. I can write email creatives in like 10 minutes. So sending me like 3 creatives to test for something that if you like, little mini tangent, but like somebody was like, hey, I wrote 3 emails for Copy Accelerator that you can promote, right? And they sent this to me 2 days ago, and then, which they haven't emailed me since, which they should do. Like they should already have emailed me again. I'm like, hey man, did you get it? Like they should email me like every day for the next 5 to 7 days at least. But beyond that, like it's like, do you see me? Like I'm promoting the live event right now, but I don't do emails really promoting Copy Accelerator to my list. Like not like, hey, join our mastermind, right? Like we don't really do that. So if I'm never emailing about it, then like those creatives aren't specific. If you were like, hey, I see you're doing this live event, here's 3 emails you could do for the live event, that would be like more useful and pertinent to me. But also I'm a copywriter. I'm actually not a great market, right? But there's so many business owners out there who are a good fit. So like, just like people constantly try to pitch me on like writing for me, but it's like, I'm not, because I teach the strategy, I get it, but I'm like, it's not a good idea. Like I'm not like a good prospect, I don't think it's super critical. It's just like, I'm not like an offer. I mean, I am an offer owner, but like, it's just different, I think. But yeah.
One thing that helps me too with follow-up for like prospective clients, like when I first started out, I would just email people, be like, hey, did you read it? Did you read it? And like keep sending it over and over, which is better than not following up. But then I quickly learned, like, you have to put some kind of new twist on it. Like if you say, did you read it yet? And they don't reply like 3 days in a row, you should probably be like, hey, John, I just thought of this like new idea, and then maybe like briefly say it in a really curious way within 1 to 2 sentences and be like, would you be interested in hearing about that? And just like something new and exciting that could help them, or making Loom videos, like pointing out different things on their site that they're not good at. Because like Stefan's really good at copy, he may not need that, but maybe there's something else going on that he, hasn't found somebody else to do yet. In the same way, like I can speak to like Sam Oven's mastermind. I joined that one too. And like, there's some very high level people in there, but frankly, they're not very good at copy. So like when I go in there and I send them samples and like leave feedback on their posts, they're like blown away. And it's just 2 different markets.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Troy. Super good point. Yeah, be original. I mean, who was it? Was it Parth, I guess, who like emailed me like 15, 17 times. And then I still didn't hire him because it was like, same thing I just said. But he was so persistent, and his emails were funny and creative every time, that I gave him this big shout out in Justin's 7 Talk Copy, and then multiple people hired him to write emails for them after that. And I gave him the shout out because I'm like, damn, I just appreciate that this guy's following up so much, right? So yeah, but yeah, not the same thing again. Like, hey, you can't get mad, right? As soon as you get like sort of pissed off, or like sort of like feel like acting like you have been slighted or deserved, as soon as you make me feel crappy about it, like you can make me feel crappy, like if you're like, hey dude, like blah, blah, and like, I'm like, oh man, I should really respond to this person's email. That's one thing. But if you try to guilt me, like, then I'm like, fuck this person. Like now I'm never going to reply. Right. So important to not do that. So yeah, cool. I'll let Michael put a question in the chat. We can do that real quick. I mean, for an ecomm list, what does the list manager charge, retainer and performance incentive, and where do you find them? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So the last question implies that you are an ecomm list and you're trying to find somebody. So what I charge is $5K a month plus roughly 5% of email revenue, depending upon the client. I know people who charge more. Frankly, I could be doing a better job of that, but if you want somebody good, it's roughly gonna, you can do the math and figure out how much that would be for you. But as far as where to find them, and the same thing is true like with finding like team members or copywriters or managers. You usually want to find them inside of a paying group because they've shown that they can invest in themselves. So like I have a job board, obviously Stefan has a job board. He charges more, so those people are typically going to be more advanced. So yeah, I would probably recommend one of those two places.
Sweet. Perfect, man. Yeah, 5% of gross sales generated. Yeah, not your total company gross, but like 5% of what they're generating for you. And then yeah, the very simple last one from anonymous attendee said, do you write with music or silence? So I personally write with silence. Everyone's different, but I always would joke with my wife Laura that if I could go into like a perfect like soundproof chamber, like a vacuum, and write, and just like that would be my ideal. I wear noise canceling headphones whenever I'm writing. It's like at this point, even in that vacuum chamber, if it was like guaranteed there would be zero sound, I would still wear them because it's such a habit. But everybody's different. I'm not sure about you, Troy, what you do.
Yeah, so the only time I'll listen to music is when I'm doing something that's just very mindless. But I think it goes along with, how a lot of people think that like there's some like big tool or like software, like new like toy that they need to buy that's going to help them be more productive. Music is the same way. So like when I'm writing, I cannot listen to music, or like when I'm sleeping, a lot of people are like, oh, listen to like this app on, and they have this like binaural, like whatever, that's going to help you fall asleep. I believed that for the longest time. And then I like stopped doing that. And I was like, I fall asleep so much faster and not listening to things. And same thing, like people are like, oh, like what music should I listen to? I'm like, nothing, like just go ahead and write and like be one in your thoughts. Like there's no way I can put out good copy when there's music playing in my head. I just don't know how people do that. And I think a lot of times I feel pressured because all these apps are like, hey, you need to listen to this, be more productive, download this. I'm like, 90% of those apps are trash and they literally make you work less productive, even though they claim it's more. Like simplicity is the key. I do not like to work on projects or with people who have complicated businesses. It's just not like conducive for happipiness.
Yeah, I love that. I agree so much. And I think like, yeah, like, so example, I talked about how I got like an Aura ring, and then I didn't like wearing a ring because like you're lifting weights, playing golf, whatever. So I got the Whoop band, which I'm wearing right now, which I do like. I check it, but one thing I had like mentally to be like is, because if you open it and it's like your sleep was shitty last night, right? Then you're like, oh, I'm tired because my sleep. And like I was like, well, I was going through life like with the same sleep that I got last night and not feeling that tired. So like now this thing is telling me that I'm tired. So now I'm going to go around and just sort of use that as an excuse to be like, kind of like, and I guarantee you a lot of people do that stuff where now it's like, I only got, 5 hours and 45 minutes. And I didn't get enough REM and deep sleep. So like, fuck, and I can't do anything today. Right. But if you hadn't actually looked at the app, you never think that, right? You'd be like, yeah, I'm a little tired. Gotta get my shit done.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that one. So like I have an Oura Ring too. Sam Ovens recommended it, and I was like, oh, I guess I have to get one. But I got it, and I don't wear it around anymore because it's just a hassle. I wear it when I sleep, but I don't check it every day. Like what I'm trying to get out of it is just like identify patterns and notice things. But for the exact reason that you mentioned, I do not like look at it every day, because if your brain sees, hey, you're supposed to be tired, you will feel more sluggish.
Totally.
And the same thing, like other companies have done the same. So I used to have that thing when the progressive, like where it tracks your driving. And I actually found that like they were basically bribing me to like save $50 by like having them track my driving. But like, what is the theory with like the dog and the ringing bell? You probably know that.
Yeah, Pavlov. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was training myself to not want to hear that. So there were a couple of times where like I really should have braked hard because like somebody pulled out in front or whatever. And I didn't do it because I didn't want to hear the beep. And I'm like, I could have died right there because I tried to save $50. Like I just threw that shit out immediately. I was like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, going back to like I put it in the chat for people who are on the Zoom call, but like, yeah, even just stuff like notifications, like you cannot pay me any amount of money to enable notifications for any app. It's like every single app wants to do it, right? I mean, including Aura and Whoop, and it's like, get up and move, run around. Your sleep says, it's like, how's that make me more productive? I'm just being distracted all the time by stupid notifications on my phone. Like I'm wildly anti-notifications. Troy, fucking awesome, dude. This is such a good conversation. I'm really glad I had you on. I'm probably going to start switching to doing our Road to Billion like once a month instead of weekly. Honestly, I'm figuring that out. So, I'm probably gonna take a week or two off after this. And, but I'm really glad I got you on before that. This was such an awesome conversation. So for everybody, places you can engage with Troy, gmailpromotab.com if you want to learn how to make sure that hire Troy to make sure that 90% plus of your emails end up in the primary inbox for Gmail. FAQemail.com if you want to, basically have your questions answered around email deliverability, spam, a lot of other stuff, plus, kind of get into Troy's world and get on his email list and stuff like that. And you can also go to leadparamedic.com to look at joining Troy's Mastermind, which I would highly recommend, and a lot of other stuff like that. But also, if you want to hang out with Troy and me, come to Scottsdale. We'll be there August 31st through September 2nd. It's a Copy Accelerator event. You actually get you get to join Copy Accelerator Lite when you buy a ticket. So you basically can be in our Mastermind for 2 months for free in addition to your ticket. It's a pretty crazy deal. I put the link in the chat and Zoom again, and I will also pop it in Facebook Live one more time as well. And for people who watch the replay on YouTube, make sure that you leave a comment, make sure you hit the like button. You're on iTunes, make sure that you leave a review, all that. And with that being said, Troy, any final words for anybody? Anything you want to say before we sign off here?
I just want to say thank you, because it's been really crazy, like since 2019, like things have happened like very, very, very quickly. And just the fact that I see people like hopping on here and wanting to ask questions of me is like very humbling. So I just want to say thank you. And like, if you're in a position where like all you have to do is believe in yourself. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but like you're a lot closer than you think. I really like that one meme where it's got like two miners who are like going, and there's like a bunch of diamonds on the other side of this wall. And like one guy is like, oh, I'm so far away. And he didn't realize how close he was to striking diamonds. And the other guy kept going. So he got them. So life is very much like that.
Totally agree, man. 100%. And yeah, man, my pleasure. I'm just, it's been awesome to see your growth, and you are just an awesome dude. You're so deserving of it. And hopefully we'll do another conversation soon. So that being said, we'll wrap up. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Again, huge thank you to Troy Ericson, leadparamedic.com, FAQemail.com, gmailpromotab.com, promo or promotions tab. I should get that right. Gmailpromotab.com, right? Yep. Perfect. Check it all out. And everyone have a great rest of your week. And then for those in the US, enjoy 4th of July on Sunday. And we'll see everybody soon. Thank you.
Thank you.